way back in time.
But one thing that I do remember also of Salem is it was a beautiful church building. And of course it was printed in National Geographic magazine, you know. And we have had pictures made of it. We have one in our home too. And it was just such a warm, beautiful building. I can remember going in Easter morning, and it was just like a flower shop. There were so many plants. And every holiday, it seemed like they just went out of their way to make it so warm and lovely. It was, I hated to see it taken down, too. A wonderful place.
But the beautiful beauty of the church, I'm sure many of us remember when the choir would hold a candlelight service, and they would come from the back balcony down the sides with candles down to the choir loft in the front, which faced the audience. We sang right straight to the audience, and it was absolutely beautiful. I think there's a lot about that church that we all have fond memories of. The building itself was gorgeous.
I remember going to Utica. We'd have to get up in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, and go to church. And when you come into the church, you'd see the two great big trees by the platform. And I remember going as a very little girl, when I was really little, and these beautiful trees, and everything was so nice. And I can remember especially every year my mom and dad would sing in the choir, but my dad would sing The Birthday of the King, and in later years he'd sing Jesu Bambino, and that was really meaningful to me. And when I hear those songs now, I think of my dad. It was a beautiful service. Oh, and I do want to say that talking about those trees in the front, every Christmas it was told to me that, or told to the family that, about my grandfather, who was a member of the church, and they used to put on the trees these candles, regular candles, and they'd light them. And around the back of the church, they would have laurel around the clock, and they'd have candles, real lighted candles. And my mother would tell the story every year about how her father, one day, they'd have people stationed around the church looking at those candles. And one year, they caught some laurel caught on fire, and my grandfather put the fire out with his hands. You know, so can you imagine that now?
So the old church burned down. I didn't know.
Dawn reminds me of the basement, which at the time of Leslie Osberg, he presented a plan to have that whole basement redone, and it was made into a beautiful fireside room where the adult class, I think, met, and we had our young people's meetings on Sunday night. There was a kitchen, there was a workman's shop there where the girls could learn stuff in the kitchen, of course. The boys had machinery that they could go and use in the workshop. And then there were Sunday school classrooms down there. So that basement turned into quite a spot of improvement over the years.
They left Providence Street to go to Salem, and then at that time 58 people left Salem to go down and start Bethlehem. We had a Sunday school building down there on Greenwood Street, and they finally built a church next door and took down the old Sunday school building. We also had a Sunday school building out on Lake View. The building is still there, by the way. It used to be Sunderland Road, now it's Route 20. And we had a Sunday school there, and we also had a Sunday school in Northland, what you were talking about. And then, what was the other? There was one other one somewhere. And anyway, then 21 people left Salem to go to Fitchburg. And part of the Finn Swedes went up there, and they started the church in Fitchburg. And then we had a few people that went down to Milford, they didn't start the Milford church, but joined with the people down there and started the church. And we also had a church in Millville. That's gone now. And then some people were working for the Tapioca Company in Orange, Mass, and went up there and went to helped them start the church in Orange. And then Salem and Bethlehem sent people to start the Chaffin's Church. The Chaffin's Church eventually got so many neighbors in there that they finally ordered themselves out of the covenant. So that's what happened to our investment in Chaffin's.
So the Fitchburg Church became Lunenburg? Or?
Yeah, the Fitchburg Church became Lunenburg, yeah.
I remember way back when we first started to go to church, it was all Swedish. And then in the 30s, it got to be 3 Swedish and 1 English service. And it gradually progressed 2 and 2, and then it was 3 English and 1 Swedish. So as we were kids, we got to listen to Swedish. But then I didn't know that much Swedish, more than I do now.
We never entered the church at Notre Dame, and Notre Dame never came into our church. But we had a very important time in Worcester, and that was during the ecumenical movement. And for the first time, as I sat in choir, we watched the nuns and the priests come down the aisle and join us in the service. It was the most emotional, wonderful time that I can ever remember.
Before we were married, I came to meet the family in New England, and it was sort of a scary time, but we went to church on Thursday. It was Wednesday or Thursday evening. I don't know what it was, but I was not ready for that because I had not come with a hat, and I had to have a hat and gloves, so I had to borrow a hat on Thursday night from Dwight's sister so that I could go to church. Times have changed, thankfully.
I'm just recalling now when we were at Salem, the many men, I think, only that would come in who were drunk because we were in an area where there were a number of bar rooms. And most often they were hungry and they wanted something to eat. And our men at Salem would often take them down to the local restaurant and give them a meal. And that kind of stands out in my mind as a mission and as a service that they were doing to these men, for these men. And it was mainly men.
And I can remember when we were going to move, it really bothered me. They had a vote, and the vote was 250 to 1. Guess who the one was that didn't want to go? Well, anyway, I'm glad we moved. It was the best move we ever made. But it was a very sad time in my life to get down there at night and see the church being taken apart.
I'm thinking about when they tore the church down. We used to take a ride down on Sunday afternoons and see how far they had gotten and everything. And one time we came and the steeple was all down on the ground, all smashed up and everything, and it hurt inside to see it like that. And these bunch of young people were going by us, and I guess I looked pretty sad or something, because one of them said to me, "Hey lady, you think you're gonna live?" At that point, I don't think I cared much.